Hi, I just wanted to draw everybody's attention. We're going to get going with our next presentation. Sorry for the little bit of delay, but we'll make it up somehow. I'll do shorter introductions. Our next presenter is David Scott from the University of West of Scotland, and he's going to present to us a Scottish town in 5 songs. And David is a songwriter and producer of one of Scotland's most enduring music collectives, the Pearl Fishers. He has recorded and toured in the USA, Japan, Europe, in a music career spanning 30 years. David's also a peripatetic member of the seminal indie rock Cindy group BMX Bandits, and has produced and played on records for artists as diverse as Ricky Ross, Alec Chilton, Deacon Blue, Bill Wells, and Isabel Campbell, among many others. Recently, David was the leading academic writing and validating the new MA program, Songwriting and Performance, a program developed in close consultation with artists and industry. So without further ado, please welcome David Scott.
Thanks, folk. It's really nice to be here, and my first trip to Cape Breton, I loved hearing the music earlier today. One of the challenges that I've faced in my career is coming into academia from a purely practice background. And when I joined UWS, I hadn't really engaged with the academy at all. And it was interesting then to actually start thinking about practice, the things that you do as a songwriter, from that perspective of seeking to understand your practice. And a lot of songwriters find that very scary. There's this kind of prevailing notion that if you understand your work, you will no longer be able to do it. and I think there is something to that, but also for me it's been an interesting journey. One of the things that we tried to do when we set up the MA Songwriting and Performance was to do it not from a perspective of musicology, but to do it from a perspective of creative identity. And one of the things that we ask our students to do is first and foremost to seek to understand their own creative identity and where their work, where their expression comes from. For me, there's so much of my work over the years has been to do with the town I was brought up in, Falkirk. And any of you who have visited Scotland and have travelled in the train from Glasgow to Edinburgh will have passed through the little town of Falkirk. That's where I was brought up, and its situation in the Forth Valley and some of the aspects of its history, I think have worked their way into my own practice as a songwriter, and hopefully I'll be able to tell you a little about that today. I'm just going to play a couple of songs, starting with a song called St. Francis Songs, which I wrote in 1993, and it was the first time I had really talked about Falkirk and the places of Falkirk in a song. So just play a version of it just now. Well, I'm walking with fairly street clouds in my head. I'm remembering the words of a rhyme, of big ships and alleys and cold frosty days, and my feelings are bound to that time. We were born in an age of discovery and rage, at the break of the new daring dawn. With the world waging war, we were safe behind doors, with the hopes of the new generation. New generation. So I'll tell you my stories, show you the buildings and places where I belong. And believe me, well, I will be waiting here, bathed in the blue light of this town, waiting for St. Francis Songs. We were dazzled and dizzied on slow summer days, my brothers, my cousins, and me. Bicycle riders and comrades in arms, on purple nights fading to grey. To Victoria Place, on the wings of my dreams, and the homes of the busy and brave. Ah, we were cursed, we were blessed by the dreams of the rest, and the hopes of the new generation. The new generation. So I'll tell you my story, show you the buildings and places where I belong. And believe me, well, I will be waiting here, bathed in the blue light of this town, waiting for St. Francis songs. Well, I'll be waiting for St. Francis songs. I'll be waiting for St. Francis songs. And I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait. For St. Francis songs. So one of the things about that song, it was the first song that I ever wrote about writing songs, if you know what I mean. So it's the first time I ever actually thought about the act of writing a song while writing a song, and in the song I refer to real places and real streets where I grew up. Fairley Street, Victoria Place. These are all places in the town that I grew up in, and people that I knew, my brothers, my cousins, and me. And in the town, I went to St. Francis Xavier Primary School, and I went to St. Francis Xavier Church, and St. Francis seemed to be this figure, not St. Francis of Assisi, St. Francis Xavier, looking over the town and sort of giving that presence. So to me, the inspired song, or the song that came from home, or the song that came from a good place, was the St. Francis song. But the other thing that I think I realised now that I was doing in that song was looking at the inside world, the inside life of a town or a person, but also contrasting that and juxtaposing that with the outside world. So we were born in an age of discovery and rage at the break of the new daring dawn. So that was the 60s, okay, so that's when I was born. But the sense that in Falkirk, which is, I'm going to come back to this again, this small town that nestles in the Forth Valley between Glasgow on one side, Stirling on the other side, and Edinburgh on the other, and the lowlands to the south, was in some way shielded from that, or existed apart from that. I spoke about that in a song called Fighting Fire with Flowers, which I recorded a couple of years ago on a Pearl Fisher's record called Up the Lark. So I'll play it for you now. And in this song, that I talk again about Falkirk and Falkirk places and Falkirk people, but I also talk about the outside world and the way that the world rages outside one's own experience. At the start of the song as well, I have to apologise, there are some very pithy and recognisable colloquial Scottish words in here, which I'm sure you will recognise. Please don't be offended. It's the way that we report fact, okay? So, Fighting Fire with Flowers. When I was a young, sappy boy, looking for a way to make a mark, somebody at school heard me sing, called me a poof, and wheeled away. I stood my ground, followed on, through the quadrant and the halls, caught him up, pushed him down, kicked him squarely in the balls. Well, I felt great for a day, a little bit less so in a week. By the time my greatest fight was famed, I was sick and so ashamed, felt the sting in my fists. And and the sting of salty tears, a hero for a day, who milked those hollow cheers. Fight fire with flowers, greet your killer with a kiss. When they call you down, just say, there's no better day than this. Wage the love of the world against the darkest powers, and victory is easy when you're fighting fire with flowers. So I spent my youth seeking out the pacifist old guard, the commies and the pinks at the Cafe Boulevard. Painted Dad's old guitar with a mark of C&D. Yet the world's many wars kept on raging despite me. Now they're carving up the land and signing on the line, and they'll do it all again like they did in 39, 58, 92, and all points in between, driving nails in their hands for any two-bit queen. Fight fire with flowers, greet your killer with a kiss. When they call you down, just say, there's no better day than this. Wage the love of the world against the darkest powers, and victory is easy when you're fighting fire with flowers. Victory is easy. Victory is easy when you're fighting fire with flowers. Thank you. So I guess every town has got its centre of radical thought and political insurrection and the place where there is potential for the polite society to collapse on its feet. And in the town of Falkirk, that place, there were two places like that. One was the Cafe Boulevard, which was an Italian cafe in the centre of town, and I'm not sure what the history is here, but certainly in Scotland there's a real tradition of Italian cafes where Italian migrants came over the Second World War, set up cafes, taught people in Scotland how to eat fish and chips, how to eat ice cream, but provided this kind of this social space which became certainly a real feature of Falkirk. And the other place was the Burns Bar, which was the centre of the folk club, and as I'm sure you guys would probably know a lot better than I do, the tradition or the mid 20th century tradition of the folk club and the revival in folk clubs was also a revival in politics and the way that people discussed politics in society. So that was the role of the Burns Bar. But in the song, Fighting Fire with Flowers, the real stuff is happening outside, and in the last verse I talk about the way that the world's wars rage despite the way that small societies or small groups of people, and certainly that was my experience in Falkirk, was a very engaged community, and for moments within that community you could really believe that the world was about to change, and there was going to be a better dawn, a braver day. But of course, as the song says at the end, 50, 92, 50 being Vietnam, 92 being the first Gulf War, and all points in between, so the sense that the world is raging. The other thing that I think I've understood about my own songs in relation to Falkirk is the way that things move in and out of that small town. And these days it's tourism, and you may have heard of this technological innovation called the Falkirk Wheel, which is this just gigantic tourist attraction now, along with these gigantic Falkirk horses, the Selkies. And Falkirk is now a tourist destination for people to come in and out of. The big excitement when I was a kid was the Tryst, and the Tryst was when I was a boy, a music and arts festival. So it was a centre for music activity, music competitions, sideshow, and all the rest of it. But historically, and this is where I think that I suspect that narratives, wider narratives about my hometown, start to come out in my own work. Falkirk was the centre of the cattle trysts, going right back to the early part of the 18th century, just after the Acts of Union, when Falkirk, due to its position, was a kind of centre where people would come from the Highland drovers with literally hundreds of thousands of cattle, sheep, horses, all the rest of it, to sell them on. And I think 6 times a year, my history may be wrong, but it's not far off, Falkirk would become the centre where that activity took place. And it crops up. I'm going to read you a couple of little bits here from a famous, I say it's a famous song, it's new to me, a song called The Flowers of Falkirk, which appears in a book called Scottish Ballads and Songs from 1858 by James Maidment, and the writer talks about Falkirk and people coming to the town. When to our town they do advance, like ladies in fine clothes they glance, and now and then they take a dance with lads that's neat and braw. And when they're going home at night, each merchant strives with all his might, whose windows shall show the best light, and all their shops do shine full bright to light them all awa. So he's talking about people coming to the town. I strongly suspect that he's talking here about the Falkirk Tryst and people coming, the cattle tryst, people coming into the town. By the end of the song, he's talking, then take a walk along with me, the great canal then you shall see, and vessels up and down it flee with goods from far awa. Behold and see the great sea lock, how all the ships about it flock, with everything to fill our shop, and so on. And so he's now talking about the town and the canal opening up. By the time he gets to the end of the song, it's like unto great Egypt's Nile. It does us all with plenty fill, sends portions to both rail and hill and countries far awa. Their ships send terror into France, for to our coast if they advance. So in the image of the song, Falkirk is leading out, and it's leading out to other worlds, to bigger worlds, but also worlds are flowing into the town. And I think that's a narrative that finds its space within lots of songs about Falkirk, and there are many. There's a very famous one by Brian McNeill called The Lads of the Fair, which I think some of you might know, which talks about the cattle tryst. And also a funny one. This is from a guy called George Wise from the early part of the 19th century. He talks about the tryst in far more colourful language. Here's bonny apples just new pu'd, they're mellow, sweet and fair. He's carnot pears and ripe gout naps and bergamot cerea. And he goes on. And next a trumpet or a drum doth quick your ears assail. Here's lions, tigers and jackal and apes without a tail. So the world of the Falkirk Tryst, it becomes ever more and ever more colourful. So in my own work, I think I don't talk literally about the Falkirk Trysts. I talk about my life in Falkirk and the things that I have experienced. But these are quite often the sense of going into coming out of Falkirk. Now, how am I doing for time? Okay for time at the back there? Because I forgot to start my watch. Okay, I'll just carry on. I was going to show you a film on the screen, but we just couldn't get it together. So I've got it on the laptop, and I'll show you this. One of the things that I was doing recently in trying to understand my relationship with the town, and I've lived there and I've lived outside the town, I've gone back, was to go and film some stuff in the town, and it just wasn't working for me. So what I did was I went home and I started making these little buildings, these little carved buildings that represented Falkirk buildings. And I'll show you just now. It's called The Last Days of September. If it's not going to work here, I'll just stop it. But see if you can see. So I'll tell you a little bit about the film. As I say, I'll put up a link on the Singing Storytellers site, and if you feel like going and see it, you can. What I was trying to do in that film was to show the way that towns grow, and the way that things develop, and also the way that things break down. And the thing that I only realised now after doing some research on this and looking at the practice is that in fact the cattle trist is represented in this halfway through. That these are all black and white buildings, but at some point grass comes in, and these little cartoon sheep and horses and pigs come in and open the door, and suddenly the whole thing goes into colour. I'm not sure how conscious that was, and I think it's an interesting thing about the act of writing songs, how much of it is conscious, how much of it is stuff that you've stored away. And I think probably for me, I begin to realise more and more the amount of information, the amount of influence that's come from my own hometown. I'll play you the song that this comes from. It's called The Last Days of September. The frost was on the ground when I set my foot down and went looking for the path the gardener laid for everyone, for the carpenters and kings, for the fools and disbelievers, for the world and its beginnings, for you, for you, for you. To find a better place in the last days of September, to claim a victory in the first days of the fall, from the chains that held you here, from the nights and the unknowing, from the tears of silent rage, for you, for you, for you. The last days of September and the first days of the fall, the stillness and the danger of it all. We wanted to see a new day, and we found one in the sand and the wreckage of the last days of September. La 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 la. Opening up your eyes to see the world in its grace and its light. Opening up your eyes. La 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 la. The wind blows strong through the streets you once belonged, where they push the shopping carts, though the work is long since gone, and the cafe windows shine with the tinsel chocolate boxes, and the laughter in the schoolyard echoes on, echoes on, echoes on. So turn your face away, my friend, and set your compass here, where the skyline stretches wide and long and clear. We'll walk the miles together, and girl, we'll be as one, since you gave me life in the last days of September. La 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 la. guess that song again is about it's a song more about people and about personal relationships as many popular songs I suppose are. But it is also about leaving and coming back, and the more I understand my own Falkirk songs, I realise that they're an expression of my relationship with the town. And that song, in fact, refers to a period where I had moved back to Falkirk. I lived in Glasgow for many years. I moved back to the town, and because of personal circumstances, I had to leave again. And the idea of this ebb and flow of moving back, it's not unique to a town like Falkirk, of course, but it is unique to my story, and it's the way that I processed. And the sense of the road that the gardener laid for everyone. These are, I suppose, like, almost like traditional music tropes or something, and the wind blows strong. So I feel that I was maybe writing in a folk or a traditional style, albeit with more modern structures. But the song is definitely about that sense of approaching a town and then leaving a town. And in the film, which I'm sorry I couldn't show you, I will post that up on the site, and please do have a look and see what I mean about the sense of leaving and going away, of things being born and things dying. I'm going to finish off with probably the most specific song, the most in terms of its narrative of all the songs. And one of the things about Scottish songwriters, I think in general, is that there's a lot of miniaturists working in Scottish song. One of my favourite is the late Michael Mara, and many of Michael's songs were about tiny things, were about tiny incidents that happened. His most famous song, I think, is Hermless, and in it the guy in the centre of the song says, Hermless, there's never nae bother with me. I go to the library and tak out a book, and then I go home for my tea. Okay, so this kind of tiny portrait of somebody at the centre of a Scottish town is so tiny, but it's also very illustrative. A very famous popular song, certainly in Europe, is Dignity by the group Deacon Blue, my friend Ricky Ross. And in that song, the central figure works all his life as a road sweeper and packs his lunch in a sun-blessed bag. He's a kind of outcast. The children call him Bogey, the song says. But all the time he's saving up every penny he makes to buy a dinghy. And the dinghy he calls Dignity, and he's going to sail it up the west coast. And while that's a romantic story, it's also a very small story. It's about somebody who's working and who saves up money in order to engage in a simple act of self-determination, and it possibly has some resonance in our year of the independence referendum and all the rest of it. But again, it comes back to this idea of miniaturism. The song I'll finish with today is a thing called Her Heart Moves Like the Sea Moves, and this is one song which is true from start to finish. Almost everything in it is true. It's about a friend of mine called Jerry McGarvey, who, when the Redemptorist mission came to our town, in the mid-70s to late 70s, came to St. Francis Saviour's Church, and it was like the circus coming to town. And I might push it a little bit and almost talk about the cattle trice and the mayhem that came to Falkirk when the Redemptorists came. And one night they were telling you, you're all damned to hell. Get to church or you're going to hell. The next night it was jokes. The next night it was telling you everything's going to be okay, God will look after you. But the whole experience of that, we were marched to church every night. The whole experience was absolutely scary and almost carnivalesque is the word that I would use for it. Well, my friend McGarvey was more taken with this experience than anybody else in the church, and it sent him off on a journey with the Redemptorists, and he came back, I don't know in how many pieces. And the song talks about the town, it talks about specific people, and the perspective of the song is from my perspective, looking on, but also the perspective of McGarvey's mother. Her heart moves like the sea moves. She remembers a day when the world fell away, and the cardinal came to Camlin City with her son, my friend McGarvey. She marched through the town in a coat from Marks and Spencer, with the darts and velvet collar, and her heart moved like the sea. Well, the priest from the mission, they howled and they screamed, and they warned of the 100 tongues of Satan. Then they threw out some old jokes, and everybody sang along to the new hymns on acoustics, and her heart moved like the sea. Well, her son, my friend McGarvey, returned every night, for he loved all the truths of the mission. The harsh truths, the small truths, and the funny ones too. And he lay down on the altar, and her heart moved like the sea. And her heart moved like the sea moves, like the day moves, like the years move. And her heart moves like the sea moves. Yeah, her heart moves like the sea. She remembers a day when the world fell away, and the pews rang with howls and sing hosannas, like a wake for the old world and a warning for the new. Now her son, my friend McGarvey, sits in dreams and silent mourning for the boy who loved the mission. And her heart moves like the sea. Thank you. I'm aware that when songwriters talk about their own songs, that there's a lot of internalisation that goes on. And I think one of the challenges, come back to what I said at the very start, when you're trying to make sense of your practice, as I do now within a more academic context, is finding context and finding a way to remove yourself from that. I think one of the things that putting together this particular talk has maybe suggested to me that although I think a lot of these songs are about moving in and out of spaces and the way that the worlds are juxtaposed, I think it's also maybe about the ways that songwriters use towns or places as a kind of shorthand or as a kind of concept to explain different realities and different existences. I hope some of that came out. It's been lovely to play for you. Thanks very much.